Hello and welcome to Oaklandside 510. I'm Tasneem Raja. Each week on the 510, we catch you up on the biggest Oakland news and take you behind the headlines. Today's deep dive, how Oakland residents fight back against pollution. And headlines on downtown hotels and East Oakland teachers' thoughts on his students' relationships to power, new coffee shops in Jack London and downtown, and more. Finally, Azucena Rasilla helps you plan your weekend in Oakland. Oh, and hey, can I ask you 3 easy questions about this podcast? Click a link in the show notes, would you please? All right, let's get into it. I'm here with Esther Kaplan, our deputy editor, to run through some recent headlines from the Oakland side. Esther, you've been with our team for nearly 3 months now. It's been fantastic as far as I'm concerned. What's been the best part for you?
Well, I'm just going to say it, Tasneem. Our readers, the bird watchers, the rowers, the renters, the political junkies, school teachers, the people who write in every day giving us feedback and tips. Coming from a national outlet where we didn't have that intimate reader relationship, I live for this stuff. I hope it keeps coming.
Yeah, I don't think those emails are going to slow down anytime soon. What's one thing that has surprised you the most, going from being an Oakland resident and an Oaklandside reader to working at the Oaklandside?
So many things. Here's one that I learned from our street safety reporter, Jose Formoso, the other day. Oakland, in its entire history, never had a Department of Transportation until 9 years ago, which to me just explains so much about the sorry state of our roads, our sidewalks, mass transit, the lack of bike lanes.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I want to turn to recent headlines. Here's a recent story, part of our Amplify Oakland series, which invites Oakland residents to share their own stories in their own words. The essay is titled, "I Teach in Deep East Oakland. My Kids Are Experts in How Power Works."
That piece is by Jesse McKinnon, a high school teacher in Sabronte Park, an East Oakland neighborhood just past the Coliseum. And he writes about how his students understand power structures in ways that might surprise people. One student told him it seemed like in some families, power is just passed down, quote, the way others pass down recipes or clothes.
You know, to be honest, I don't think that's something I understood until much later than high school, and probably because I didn't have to.
Right. McKinnon says his students don't speak with bitterness, but with precision. They're asking smart questions about how laws get made, who controls city budgets, how the system that shapes their lives actually works. And his story really resonated with readers.
Yeah, we had a lot of readership on that. I hope more people will check out Jesse McKinnon's essay. We're going to link to it from the show notes. Okay, moving to business news, here's another recent story. The State of Oakland Hotels, a conversation with the downtown Marriott. So we know the hotel industry here has been struggling since the pandemic. Many properties have closed down. The Marriott City Center went through foreclosure earlier this year, right?
Right. The Hong Kong-based company that owned it had defaulted on its loan, and its creditors just sold it to a new owner for about half of what the company paid in 2017. This is Oakland's biggest hotel. It's connected to the convention center, so it's pretty critical for Oakland attracting conferences. The Marriott has a new general manager, a hospitality industry veteran named Kevin Boland. And our reporter, Natalie Ornstein, sat down with him for a really interesting conversation. And it was not all doom and gloom. He says business is slowly picking back up. And they're seeing more small business bookings and also more leisure travelers. He also shared some things he's optimistic about, like Oakland's growing foodie scene, Samuel Merritt University building a new campus across from the hotel, and more coordination with Oakland police on convention security. His take is Oakland is stabilizing, and he says all the major headwinds are now tailwinds.
Okay, time will tell. And finally, some food news from our Nosh section. Town fair folk opening 2-story cocktail lounge and new creative coffee options in the East Bay.
So a new upscale spot called Lucy Blue just opened uptown in the former Duende space near the Fox Theater. It's a collaboration between chef Michelle McQueen and Matt Sturm, with mocktails and cocktails like the Jade Moon, which has gin, matcha, and coconut honey for all you matcha fans. and a great-looking menu that reflects Southern, Asian, Caribbean, and European influences with dishes like oxtail arancini.
Oxtail arancini, okay. It's really good to see the Duende space get some new life. That's a really big location, and it's just been sitting empty. And as for Michelle McQueen, listeners, you may know her from Town Fair, the restaurant at OMCA, and going further back, yep, she's a Brown Sugar Kitchen alum. It's really good to see her behind something new.
Another new coffee shop is Oakdar downtown, specializing in Ethiopian coffee brewed in a traditional clay pot where you can add condiments like ginger or butter.
Yeah, I passed that the other day on the bus. I was definitely curious. We've seen so many new Yemeni-owned coffee shops in the East Bay over the last few years. An Ethiopian coffee shop seems like a slam dunk, too. Oh, okay, thank you, Esther. These stories and more at oaklandside.org and in the show notes. Coming up, Oaklanders versus pollution. Three years ago, environmental justice activists in East Oakland were celebrating a hard-won victory. After years of organizing, the AB&I metal foundry, which had been spewing foul-smelling toxic emissions into their neighborhood near the Coliseum for decades, finally shut down. The foundry agreed to a $1.2 million settlement with the state of California for violating clean air laws, and it announced it was leaving Oakland and moving to Texas. The county began to oversee a cleanup operation, and it seemed like an end to the pollution that had been impacting homes and a nearby school. But as our environmental reporter Callie Rhoades uncovered in her latest investigation, it wasn't a lasting victory. A new polluter was allowed to move in with the city's blessing, and residents and activists started the cycle of worrying and complaining about it all over again. I'm here with Callie Rhoades to talk about this story, which captures how engaged, informed Oakland residents can win a strategic victory over polluters and what a powerful force they represent in the town. It also exposes the broken communication between the city and the county and how those communication problems set things back again. Thank you for joining us, Callie.
Thank you for having me.
Can you give us the elevator pitch version of AB&I? Like, what was it? How long did it operate in East Oakland? How bad was the pollution?
Yeah, so AB&I operated in East Oakland for over 100 years.
Wow.
They manufactured mainly cast iron pipes and pipe fittings. At the time that they left, they were providing around 200 union jobs. But there was a lot of complaints from East Oakland residents for years about nasty smells and toxic fumes emanating from the site, and a 2021 report from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District found emissions of hexavalent chromium, benzene, and arsenic, which have been linked to increased risk of cancer, birth defects, and respiratory ailments.
Okay, so nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And am I right in thinking that there was also a school nearby?
Yes, Acorn Elementary is just down the road from the former AB&I facility, and it was a cause of concern to have school children so close by to a facility that had been linked to these toxic smells and that was known to be polluted.
So tell me about the cast of characters of people who, start making noise about this.
Yeah, so a lot of East Oakland community members raised concerns about the facility. For a while there, they had a phone tree going where if someone smelled the foundry or smelled something toxic in the air, they would call the Air Quality Management District to alert them of their concerns. Mainly, a lot of the activism work came out of a group called Communities for a Better Environment.
Now we're up to 2022. The foundry's shut down. Then what happens?
Yeah, so AB&I voluntarily moves to Texas in 2022, and they sell the property to Duke Realty, which is then bought out by a company named Prologis. And when Prologis and Duke take over this site, they enter an agreement, a voluntary agreement with Alameda County to clean up the environmental hazards on the site. There's also a deed restriction placed on the property, which was placed on the site by Alameda County in 2011 due to its environmental concerns and requires the company operating the site to alert the county before they do anything that would, quote, aggravate or contribute to existing environmental conditions. All of this is just with Alameda County, mainly with Alameda County Environmental Health Department.
So the new owner has got these agreements with the county. It sounds good. Then what?
Yeah, so things are going pretty well. The community is meeting with Alameda County, it's meeting with Prologis, and they're still watching the site. The activists specifically were quite happy to see AB&I off the property and for these cleanup actions to begin. Then, in October 2024, they start noticing something strange. They start seeing a tow truck going in and out of the former AB&I site. And this tow truck is bringing in burnt-out cars. It's bringing in crashed-out vehicles. And this causes immediate concern among residents. So they alert Alameda County. Alameda County says they had no idea this was going on, and they reach out to Prologis. Now, during this time, Prologis had entered into a contract with the City of Oakland's tow company, Auto Plus Towing. And in Prologis' view, they had every right to do this. They got a zoning clearance from the city. The property is zoned for industrial use, but there are a couple problems there. One, the permit that the city grants them, the zoning clearance, is granted erroneously. The site is actually located within a half-mile of a BART station, and they can't have this kind of operation there. And two, the county says you can't operate this type of business on this site because it does contribute, in their view, to further environmental harm.
Can you explain that to me? When we're talking about towed cars, like what kinds of environmental pollutants are we talking about?
Yeah, so to give you an example, when the county inspector went out to the site in October to follow up on the community's concerns, they noticed numerous burned out vehicles leaking toxic chemicals such as PFAS, those forever chemicals that we all hear about. They also noticed semi-volatile organic compounds. PFAS has been linked to a variety of cancers, and those semi-volatile organic compounds have been linked to asthma and lung cancer.
Okay, so more nasty stuff again.
Yeah.
Wait, can we go back to a second? I thought that Prologis had made these promises about how it was going to work with the county and, the county was going to have some oversight here. But then the city comes in and it seems like the city is helping Prologis dirty up the site again. How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's important to remember that Prologis' agreement, and remember, this is a voluntary agreement. They enter it on their own accord. It's just with the county. It's not with the city. And those agreements, those cleanup sites, live in their own database. It's monitored by the county. It's actually a state database. The city, when it's zoning a property, when it's giving out a permit, they can check that database. And from my conversations with the city, they do sometimes. And from my conversation with the county, it seems like sometimes they don't. And they're actually not sure how much the city is looking at that database.
So you have all these different levels of government, right? You've got city, county, state, the federal government. And what you don't want to have happen is one of those levels of government is saying, we're going to clean up this site. Another one doesn't check in with them and goes and does something that messes up those cleanup plans. Am I understanding this right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, from conversations I've had with various levels of government, I think that's what people want. I think they want to be talking to each other to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. But in reality, this communication between agencies just isn't standard, and thus things get missed, just like they did in this case.
So what are you hearing from the people who've been pushing on this issue? Communities for better environment, nearby residents. What are they saying? They're
incredibly frustrated. This felt like a slap in the face to them. And at the same time, they're not surprised. This is a historically environmentally overburdened area that have faced these issues again and again. And they went right back to watchdogging the site. They called the county. They've talked to the city. They're talking to their representatives, to their council member. They are going to continue to hold these folks accountable. They also want Oaklanders to see this as a citywide problem that doesn't just affect East Oakland residents, but affects the whole city and is affecting those members of the community that are most vulnerable.
Okay, so what happens now? Is anybody going to be held accountable? Is the site going to get cleaned up?
Auto Plus Towing has stopped all operations on the site. They are not bringing any new cars to this East Oakland site. According to Joe DeVries, Oakland's deputy city administrator, they will take all the cars off the lot by September. As for Prologis' agreement with the county, if they don't move forward with their cleanup agreement as has been laid out for them, the county says it will escalate and refer them to the state. I do think that this instance shows the impacts of what happens when there isn't good interagency coordination. In my reporting, I've seen this in this story, of course, but in so many others, where an issue is continuously passed between agencies because it touches so many, and nobody really sees the responsibility as their own or has complete control or understanding of a situation, and community members are left to take matters into their own hands.
Right. I mean, when you see a burned out car in a tow yard, you're not thinking about all of the different governmental agencies and levels that might have control over what goes there.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about this, this is a city's tow company at a lot owned by a private company that has an agreement with the county, that has also environmental restrictions to follow that could be enforced by state level regulators. So there's a lot of entities touching just this one issue, and you can imagine how many of those exist just within the city of Oakland.
And because of all of that confusion, as you've reported over and over again, a lot of times what we see is then residents get in there themselves and take matters into their own hands. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to name check some of Oakland's like biggest, most long-lasting, most frustrating pollution and environmental issues. And I want you to tell us what, if anything, you have observed in terms of people getting in there and kind of DIYing it. Okay, let's start with illegal dumping.
Yeah, I mean, this is a subject in which we see so much community involvement. For anybody that has lived in Oakland, even just for a little bit, you know that illegal dumping and trash is a big issue in the area. And because of this, so many community members have taken this issue head on. They go out multiple times a week or weekly or monthly to join a cleanup effort. They're out there with trash bags and pickers and gloves, and they're sorting trash and they're counting trash, and they're seeing what the scale of this issue is and tackling it themselves head on. Groups like the East Bay Trash Pandas, who focus on the hills, I Heart Oakland Alameda Estuary, that focuses on the water, the Urban Compassion Project, the Trash Falcons, the High Street Coalition. All these groups work to clean up our streets in Oakland, and they do it themselves, and they do it for free.
Yeah, I see their videos on Reddit. Sometimes they cut together these like sped up, fast motion mini documentaries of their cleanup efforts. And it is remarkable how much trash they're removing.
Yeah.
And these are volunteer efforts.
Yeah.
Okay, another issue, lack of trees and green space in less affluent neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, Oakland did a study a little while back, and it made it clear that there just aren't enough trees and green spaces in some of the lower income neighborhoods in Oakland, specifically in the flatland areas. And there are a lot of groups that are also trying to work on this issue themselves. And this one's a tough one. Trees are expensive. Digging tree wells is hard. You need permits for them, but they're still out there trying to advocate for more trees in their areas. Groups like Sidewalk Trees and Gardens, West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project, all have programs in which community members can ask them to help get a tree in their neighborhood or in front of their house.
Okay, got it. Here's another issue in Oakland, making sure Oakland is a good place for native animals to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, in my 2 years here as the Nature and the City reporter at the Oakland side, these have been some of my favorite stories. If you think about from the big creatures to the little creatures, there's probably a group that is advocating for them. I've covered folks that help newts cross the road in the middle of the night so that they don't get run over by cars. There are groups that work to protect Oakland's bird population, our official bird, the black-crowned night heron. The Oakland Zoo has a program where people go out and look for the fledglings that might have fallen out of the trees and take them if they're injured to get care. There are groups like the Rotary Nature Center Friends who have noticed the Chinook salmon coming back into the lake, and they're taking them out and analyzing them to understand like the health levels of our precious Oakland jewel, Lake Merritt. No matter what animal it is, there is a group in Oakland that seems to care about it. And also there are, just also a lot of love for our iconic animals like Kevin, the peacock that lives in Rockridge, or, Hank the pelican that lives on the lake.
Oh, Kevin. Yep. You've done some reporting on Kevin.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's obvious that residents are filling gaps that we would assume the government would be taking care of. Now, I know you spend a lot of time also talking with people who work at the city and the county, people in the Parks and Recreation Department, the Public Works Department. Like, how do they feel about the resident involvement?
I mean, I think they really appreciate it. As I spoke to earlier, these departments have really limited resources. And, the community members stepping in and doing sometimes the job that the city really wants to do or that these departments want to do, but just don't have the time or the money or the resources to do so is really helpful for them. At the same time, I've talked to a lot of folks within these departments who wish that they could be doing more.
Can I ask, do you think there is capacity to do more? I mean, some of the stuff you're describing, like making sure that, a staffer at a city agency is checking a database that belongs with the county. This is not the kind of stuff that residents can or should be doing. The issues that you're reporting on, do they feel like issues of understaffing to you? Is it technology? What do you think are the roadblocks?
It's a number of things. I think limited resources is really the key here. I also think there is that lack of communication. And I also think there's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to the community members stepping up and taking control of a lot of the things that they don't see the city as doing enough of. I think that emboldens community members. But I also have heard from those community members that they feel like it creates a bit of apathy on the side of some of the folks that should be overseeing these issues, and that they want to see, departments step up a little bit more. I think a lot of community members are frustrated because they do want to see those that they've put in power, those that they've entrusted with the safety of their communities and the environmental health, do more.
What do they tell you they need? What would actually make their efforts more effective?
Yeah, I think the thing to keep in mind is that there's no lack of people who care here in Oakland, but there are only so many things that you can give your attention to. And I think community members within these organizations are fighting for that attention. And it's really hard when there are a lot of issues that people care about and it stretches their time and their resources really thin. I think what they want is for folks to pay attention to what they're fighting for and to get broader support.
And that is where your reporting has come in for the last 2 years. And I have to say, this conversation is very bittersweet because it's a look back at all of this incredible reporting that you've done over the past 2 years. But it's also coming at the end of your 2 years with the Oakland side. You've been working with us through this program called the California Local News Fellowship. It's been wonderful to have you. How's this experience been for you?
Yeah, it's truly been a privilege to cover the environment for the Oakland side. I have talked to so many wonderful people over the last 2 years. I've had the privilege to report some really important stories that I'm very proud of. I couldn't be more grateful at the opportunity to do this job. Like I said earlier, I've seen so much care and passion out of the Oakland community. I've lived in this community for a little while now, and to report on it is to also be a part of it. That's just how it is to be a local news reporter. So yeah, I'm very sad to be leaving.
Thank you, Callie. Callie Rhoades, everyone, our nature and the city environment reporter for the past 2 years. Callie, as we were saying earlier, was embedded with our newsroom through the California Local News Fellowship. It's a state-funded program that's run by the UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with Callie, who regular readers of the Oakland side will also recognize from her byline on investigative reporting about lead in Oakland and the FBI investigation involving Oakland's recycling contractor and more. And hey, some good news for you. Callie is going to spend some of her time now producing this podcast. So, producer Callie, welcome aboard, and it is great to work with you on the 510.
Thank you, Tasneem.
All right, listeners, what are you doing this weekend? You don't know? We've got you. Coming up. I am here with Azucena Rasilla, Oakland Side's arts and community reporter, to help you plan your weekend and your week ahead. Hey, Azucena.
Hi, Tasneem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, looking at the events roundup that you published this week, I see we have an event called Paranormal Cirque 2 running this weekend. That is intriguing. What can we expect?
Yeah, so this is going to be wild. It's not your typical circus at all. Think more like a horror show meets circus, and it's happening right by the Coliseum. They have acrobats and performers doing pirouettes in the air with no safety net, which sounds kind of scary. Mm-hmm. The whole thing has this like dark, gory, theatrical vibe.
Okay, so like Halloween in August,
very much Halloween.
Okay, I like it. For folks who want to check out Paranormal Cirque 2, it's running Friday, August 29th through Monday, September 1st, and it's going to be right across the street from the Oakland Coliseum. Tickets are $30 to $65. What else is happening this weekend?
This is the final weekend to catch a play called Two Trains Running by Lower Bottom Players at BAM House. It's an August Wilson play, and Lower Bottom Players is Oakland's oldest black theater. It's set in a black-owned diner in Pittsburgh in 1969 that's going to be demolished soon. Part of a bigger plan to demolish and redevelop a black neighborhood. Sounds familiar? It's about how people who live and work there are making sense of what's going on, trying to fight back, and trying to hold on.
It sounds really powerful. That's Two Trains running this weekend, the final shows of this production. I'm going to try and check this out, honestly. Looking ahead to next week, can you tell us about the Real Queer Flicks Festival?
This is such a great showcase of Bay Area LGBTQ plus filmmakers and is part of Oakland Pride events. They're screening 6 short films, followed by a Q&A with the filmmakers. It's organized by Cinemama. It's a group dedicated to connecting filmmakers with resources and hosting this kind of community events.
Okay, that's really cool. That's Wednesday, September 3rd at 6 p.m. at the Grand Lake Theater. Tickets around $12. Okay, looking further ahead into the fall, there is something really exciting coming up in November. Too Short with a live band at Yoshi's.
I am so excited about this show. This is for sure one that I'm going to check out. Too Short is such an incredible Oakland legend, and seeing him perform with a live band is going to be just completely different experience. And just seeing him, if you've seen him at the Fox or other venues, this is just going to be the best. It's such an intimate show at Yoshi's.
Okay, that's definitely going to sell out. So that's Too Short with a live band at Yoshi's running Friday, November 21st through Sunday, November 23rd. Tickets are $99 to $199, and again, this is going to sell out. We're going to have details for all of these events in our show notes. Thank you so much, Azucena.
Thanks for having me.
We did it. That's the show. Thank you for listening to Oaklandside 510. And hey, I've said it before, I'll say it again, Oaklandside 510 is an experiment. This podcast is something we're trying here at the Oaklandside, a new way of bringing you Oakland news. We want to keep it going, and you can help with that. Remember how I said I want to ask you 3 easy questions about this podcast? There's a link in the show notes below. Will you shoot me a few thoughts? Nothing fancy. This is not a college essay. Just scribble down whatever you're thinking and feeling right now after listening to this episode. You can help us make this show better. And please consider supporting the work that we do here at the Oaklandside by becoming a member. Our reporting is free for you and all of your Oakland neighbors to check out, but you guessed it, it costs real money to produce. Over 4,000 of your Oakland neighbors are keeping the Oaklandside going by donating an average of $10 a month, and I would love for you to join them. Every dollar helps us keep covering Oakland with the depth and attention our beautiful city deserves. Also, if your organization would like to advertise on this podcast, we would love to talk. That email address is editors@oaklandside.org. Thank you to Esther Kaplan for walking us through the headlines. Thank you, Callie Rhoades, for her incredible environmental reporting over the past 2 years. And welcome to the podcast production team, Callie. Thank you to our arts reporter, Azucena Rasilla, for keeping us in the know on weekend activities and upcoming events. Thank you to you, our audience. I'm Tasneem Raja. See you next week.